Is there any better feeling than picking up a book and feeling like you can't put it down again? Especially if it's a book about the psychology of human behaviour. Okay, maybe that second part is just me. Anyway, one such book that did this to me over the last few years was when I read The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, I know, before you come for me in the comments, some of the theory referenced in that book is a bit questionable and suffers from the dreaded problem of not being fully replicatable, right?
The last two papers I've written were widely discredited.
But I just can't help it. This book seems to live rent-free in my head, especially when I apply it to workplace well-being. Let me share why. Okay, so a quick summary if you've not read the book. The central premise is that things like ideas, products, and human behaviors can suddenly take fire and spread almost like an epidemic across a big population. But they have to cross a certain threshold or tipping point before that suddenly begins to happen. Perhaps more interestingly, the book tries to describe why some ideas and behaviors spread in this way, while others die on the vine. Gladwell suggests there are 3 rules or laws that may be at play here. Number 1 is that the stickiness of an idea is key, particularly in today's world when we're told that we have a constantly diminishing attention span. We can't keep our attention on anything for longer than 5 seconds. Ideas really need to catch our attention and stick in our heads, much like this book did for me, I guess. Secondly, external context is really important and has a much bigger influence on our behaviour than we give it credit for. So there's an interesting story within the book that looks at how they cleaned up the New York subway system in the mid-90s. So literally painted over graffiti and made it a much cleaner environment. And apparently it really helped or played a part in reversing the crime epidemic that was accelerating during that time. And finally, Gladwell suggests that a small set of key people with a particular set of skills hold the key to any idea going viral.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
He talks about 3 archetypes. You've got your mavens, so they know everything. They collect information relentlessly, and they're happy to pass this knowledge on to other people. You've got connectors, so they know everybody. Or more specifically, they have what we call weak ties with lots of people. So what this means is that they're not too ingrained with a single group of people, but instead span lots of different networks. And then finally, you've got salespeople. They've got the gift of persuasion and a knack for selling ideas. Okay, so I hear you ask, what does this have to do with well-being? That's what I talk about here, right? I tell you what, champion networks. Wellbeing champion networks come in all different shapes and sizes, but they typically consist of a group of passionate people spreading the good word of well-being across a business, having some important conversations, and helping people along the way. Now, again, I'm not actually going to talk about everything to do with the effectiveness of these networks because I think that's dependent on so many different factors. How and why were they set up in the first place? What was the scope of the role? What support and training are these champions given? The list goes on, and maybe that's one for another video. What I really want to consider, though, is whether we can use some of the ideas from the book The Tipping Point to extend their impact. Because that's the point of any champion network, right? To extend reach and awareness across what is sometimes a very large group of employees within an organization. You can easily imagine the 3 archetypes I outlined before sitting within a wellbeing champion network. You got your wellbeing mavens. They're the geeks who know what workplace wellbeing really is. They're much more likely to tell you about the new ISO 45003 standard than a cycle to work scheme. Then you've got your wellbeing connectors. People seek them out if they've got something to share that's stressing them out. They also seem to know all the latest gossip about a change program that's being rolled out. And finally, you've got your wellbeing salespeople. Let's be honest, they probably do CrossFit and they'll have you doing it soon too. Surely it can't be as easy as simply recruiting for these attributes to suddenly make a wellbeing champion network a success. All of a sudden, senior leaders are taking wellbeing more seriously, and people who didn't know their MHFAs from their USBs are now hosting weekly wellbeing check-in sessions at the start of every team meeting. But what if it was that easy? Or even if it's not, is it not worth a try? Again, you might have already tried it, and you'll probably let me know below this video. But this is what we need to do. We need a dialogue about these things. I've seen lots of wellbeing champion networks over the years, and they vary wildly in how successful they are. Maybe picking the right mix of people based on a set of characteristics that enhance the chances of their ideas going viral might be something to consider. As the subtitle of Gladwell's book suggests, Little things can make a big difference, and I've seen this in practice. So let me know what you think. Maybe you've tried this already in your business. I'd love to know how it went. And do you find yourself playing one of these 3 roles when talking about well-being at work? Oh, and if you're wondering, I'm definitely the maven. I'd be delighted to tell you all about subjective well-being homeostasis and allostatic load if you've got a few hours. No? Okay, I'll see you on the next video then.